Hello there everyone, my name is David Luchford and welcome to lesson 64 of my Ancient Greek course. In today's lesson we are going to be doing practice with the aorist tense, in that we're going to be translating sentences which use aorist tense verbs, or which require you to use aorist tense verbs when we're going from English to Greek. Before we get started, I want to show you my newest set of virtual shelves and the amphorae of those that have recently generously supported my channel. But firstly, I want to tell you that recently an individual by the name of Historiae supported my channel and he sent the following message. I like my amphora to be cool. So that's all I had to work with, okay, with regard to the customization of Historiae's amphora, or amphorae rather, because he actually bought 10 virtual amphorae. So this is what I came up with, ladies and gentlemen. This is a cool amphora, is it not? Is this not one of the coolest amphorae you've ever seen in your entire life? I hope it is, because that is the design I went with for the 10 amphorae of Historiae. So you can now see them on my newest set of shelves. We've got Historiae's 10 cool amphorae here on the left. You can see I've arranged them in a funky fashion this time, you know. I've stacked them up. And I've done that similarly with the amphorae of ALW and Caroline and Francesco, but I didn't have to do any stacking with Bonnie's and Florence's. Now, whether or not I had to stack your amphorae, I would like to say a huge thank you to everyone that has supported my channel recently. So that's a big thank you to Historiae, to ALW, to Bonnie, to Caroline, to Francesco, and to Florence. You're all amazing, and I greatly appreciate the support. Now, before I move on, there's a couple of things I should say. One is, what's going on with this set of shelves? I went for a more gothic set of shelves this time, and that's not because I'm a goth, but it's because I'm feeling a bit down, okay? I'm feeling a bit depressed, black-pilled, if you will, concerning the state of my country and our society. You know, I think things are going downhill. So although I tried to create positive vibes with my light shelves in the last lesson or two, this time I thought I would get some gothic shelves to reflect the depressing, dark state of our society. Anyway. Now, the other thing I would like to say concerns some of these names, namely, Historiae is the nominative plural form of Historia, which means inquiry. It's a 1B noun, and it's where we get the word history from. Herodotus's histories are called the Historiae, exactly as you see in this individual's name. So, literally, Herodotus's histories are called the inquiries, because that's what he sets out to do. He inquires into things that have happened in the past. So that explains what's going on with the name of this kind individual, Historiae. Now, with ALW, I don't know what it stands for, but let's say awesome, lovely, and wonderful. Okay? And of course, we've got other lovely names too. We've got Bonnie, we've got Caroline, sweet Caroline. And we've got Francesco and Florence. What wonderful names, you know? All of my supporters have such lovely names. Now, with that said, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has supported my channel in the past. Also, I'm so grateful for all of these beautiful virtual amphorae, and I'm continually inspired by these beautiful shelves. If you would like to buy a virtual amphora or virtual amphorae, you can do that at the link in the description below. Now, I do need to tell you about what I've got on my seasonal or anniversary shelf. As you can see here, we have a portrait of JFK. That's because on the 22nd of November 1963, JFK was assassinated. So we're remembering JFK today because the release date of this video, the 22nd of November, coincides with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, who was a great man. And I should say, the circumstances surrounding his assassination were a bit sus, to say the least, right? It's a bit sus that Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged assassin, was murdered before he could go to trial and everything could be examined thoroughly. It's a bit sus, you know, when the assassin of a president gets killed by a mobster a few days after carrying out said assassination. Bit sus, to say the least. There's some other peculiar stuff as well. It's an interesting topic to look into if you haven't looked into it in the past. But anyway, today we are remembering JFK, so rest in peace, JFK, a great man. Now, on a more positive note, I would just like to say thank you to even my earliest supporters once again for all of the support. And with that said, let's get started doing some practice with the aorist tense. Here, I've got my first exercise for you, and it consists of 12 Greek sentences for you to translate into English. Each of these Greek sentences uses an aorist tense verb. It could be weak aorist, it could be strong aorist, or it could be root aorist. Okay? So if you've learned the content of my last few videos, then you will know what these verbs mean and how to translate them. I've glossed two new words, tote and eti, in the word bank for you. And with that said, please do pause the video and translate these sentences into English. Okay, I'm now going to go through the answers. Number one is Hergune ton andra etupsen. Here you should have said, the woman struck the man, or the woman hit the man. There we have the verb tuptor, the verb to strike or hit, in the weak aorist third person singular. Number two, ten koran enikesamen, means we conquered the land, or we conquered the country. Nikaos, the verb to conquer, here it's in the weak aorist, in the first person plural. You can see the augment's been added, the vowel alpha has lengthened to eta, and it's in the we form, the first person plural form. We see that from the ending amen. Thirdly, hoimantes estohieron ebesan means the prophets went into the temple. Here we have a root aorist verb. We have ebesan, which is the they, that is third person plural, form of binor, which has a root aorist. And here it is in the root aorist in the third person plural. 4 is tous hippos hoi stratiotai elusan. Here you should have said, the soldiers released the horses. Luo has a weak aorist, so we simply have added the augment and sigma, and then the ending un for the they form, referring to the soldiers who are in the nominative. Fifthly, we have homoros doulos epesen eiston potamon. This means the foolish slave fell into the river. Now, here we have the verb piptor, the verb to fall, in the aorist, and piptor has a strong aorist. It's got the strong aorist stem pes. So we've augmented that strong aorist stem, and then we've used the third person singular ending. Sixthly, we've got her soper parthenos ten oikion epulaxen. This means the wise maiden guarded the house, or the wise young woman guarded the house. Here we have the verb pulator, the verb to guard, in the weak aorist. It's got tau at the end of its present stem. When you add sigma to tau, it makes xi. Okay, so that's why we get epulaxen. Number 7 is epagon ton chemeteron duron chai korai ekenai. This means those girls ate our cheese. Here we have the verb epagon, which is the verb estior, the verb to eat, in the strong aorist. The strong aorist stem of estior is pug. And here it's in the they form. We know that from the fact that those girls, hai korai ekenai, are the subject, because the ending on is ambiguous in the imperfect and also in the strong aorist. It can be the first person singular form, or it can be the third person plural form. Here, this verb's got to be third person plural because we've got a plural subject. And what the girls ate is our cheese. Literally, our cheese, but we would just have to say our cheese in English. Those girls ate our cheese. How scandalous. Number 8 is tous kleptas apektenate. This means you plural killed the thieves. You didn't need to specify plural, but I've just mentioned it for clarity's sake. You could have just said you killed the thieves, but we know it's you plural from the ending ate. This is the verb apoktenor, the verb to kill, and it's got a weak aorist, but because it's got a stem in new, it doesn't add sigma. It just lengthens a vowel if possible, but it's not possible here because the ktain bit already has a diphthong, so we can't lengthen anything. So nothing changes about the stem, we just add the augment and then the weak aorist ending. Number 9, poi ebe, means where did the woman go? Here we've got binor in the root aorist, third person singular. 10 is hodespotes ton doulon uk ekolasen. This means the master did not punish the slave. Here we had to say did not because we've got kolasdor in the aorist, it has a weak aorist, and in particular it's in the third person singular. He punished, referring back to the master. So the master punished, but then we've got uk before it. And if we want to say the master not punished, in English we need to say did not punish. The master did not punish the slave. 11 tous barbarus tote emisesa kai etinun autus misor means I hated the barbarians then and I still hate them now. There you go. So this person is telling us about something they did in the past and something that they do even now. Finally, number 12, ton men botchron or ruxamen, ton denekron uk etapsamen, means we dug the pit or the hole, but we did not bury the body. Now, the verb orutor is the verb to dig. It does have a strong aorist, and it also has a weak aorist. Here we've got the weak aorist of the verb to dig. And we've got a contrast in this sentence. So on the one hand, we dug the pit or the hole. On the other hand, we did not bury, that's from taptor, the verb to bury. Pi tau plus sigma makes psi, so we did not bury, weak aorist of taptor, ton necron, the body, or the dead body if you want to be precise, or the corpse. Anyway, if you have questions about any of these sentences, we finished on a cheery note there, didn't we? If you have questions about any of these sentences, please do put them in the comments below. But now, before we go on to exercise 2, I have an illustration of one of these sentences. I wonder which one I've chosen to illustrate. Well, let's find out by pressing the right arrow key. I've illustrated number 7. Epagon ton chemeteron duron hai korai ekenai. Those girls, hai korai ekenai, epagon ate our cheese. Look, these guys are scandalized. They're in shock. They're appalled. They're in disbelief that these girls have eaten their cheese. They've gobbled it up. The aorist is a complete action, so that's why they finished. There's no cheese left other than the crumbs. They've eaten it, okay? Those girls ate our cheese. An imperfect would be appropriate if the girls were literally like still eating the cheese. If it was in process, you know, if they caught them doing it, not just like licking the crumbs off their fingers, but if they literally had a big chunk of cheese and one of them was, you know, chomping into it right at the time, then you could say those girls were eating our cheese. That would be an imperfect verb. But because they've basically finished, excluding the crumbs, we can say those girls ate our cheese to describe this picture. Interesting stuff, right? Now, let's go on to exercise 2. Exercise 2 consists of 4 English sentences for you to translate into Greek. I've glossed one word for you, namely the word truth, which is aletheia in Greek. It's a 1B noun, as you can see in the word bank, but you should already know the other words that you need for this exercise. So with that said, please do pause the video and translate these sentences into Greek. Okay, to reveal the answers, number 1, we stopped the army of the Persians, would be ton straton ton person epausamen. Now, you could have had ton person sandwiched in between ton and straton, or you could have repeated this definite article and put it after the repeated definite article, and you could have had the units of this sentence in another order. But these are the grammatical forms that you needed. We had the weak aorist of power in the first person plural. Number 2, the girl found the horse would be her korre ton hippon heuren. Now, heuriskor, the verb to find, has a strong aorist stem, heur, and then when we augment it, it becomes heur with an eta, okay, heur. And then we add the strong aorist third person singular ending to say he, she, it found. Here it's she because it's the girl, so the girl found the horse. You could have had the units in another order, but these are the grammatical forms that you needed. And of course, the N ending does have a movable nu. So if you put this verb before ton hippon, for instance, then you would just have heure without the nu there. You only need that nu if the next word begins with a vowel, or if the verb is at the end of the sentence. Thirdly, they did not eat because of the illness. Here we would say dia ten noson uk epagon. Dia means on account of or because of, and it governs the accusative. It's a preposition governing the accusative. So we put the thing that goes after it in the accusative. So that's why we've put the illness, the nosos, in the accusative. Nosos is one of the few 2A nouns, namely those in os, u, which belong to the second declension, which is feminine. Nosos is feminine, and so is nersos. Nosos means disease or illness or plague. Nersos means island. Similar looking words. They're both feminine despite being 2A. So that's why we had the feminine definite article here. And the verb we needed was epagon, they ate, but we needed to negate it with uk to say they did not eat because of the illness. This is the strong aorist of estior, the verb to eat. Fourthly, my soldiers got to know the truth concerning the island. Here we would say hoist ratiotai ten alertean periten nerson egnosan. Now, here we had to use a root aorist verb, because gignoskor, the verb to get to know something, has a root aorist, and the root aorist they form would be egnosan. And we needed the truth in the accusative, and we needed the soldiers in the nominative, since they're the ones that got to know the truth. They're the ones that did the action. And we wanted the truth in the accusative, because that's the object, the direct object. It's what they got to know. And we wanted to say concerning the island, as in with regard to the island. Peri is a preposition governing the accusative, and the word for island is nersos. One of those feminine 2A nouns, which there aren't too many of, as I was just saying. So that's why we have peri ten nerson. If you have questions about any of these, please do post them in the comments below. But now, let's go on to exercise 3, which consists of 5 extracts of actual Greek for you to translate into English. I've glossed unfamiliar vocab in the word bank, and each of these extracts uses at least one aorist verb. Okay, so that's why we are looking at these extracts in particular, because they use aorist verbs. Now, before you translate these 3 extracts of actual Greek, there's a couple of things I need to warn you about, okay? The first one is, if you have an amount of time in the accusative case, then it means for that amount of time. So, for example, in the first one, you have hemeras tres. Now, I won't spoil what that means, but it's giving you an amount of time, and it's put that amount of time in the accusative, which you know from the ending as here. And because of that, we translate it as for that amount of time. So, for example, to come up with a different example, if you had 10 hours, which would be deca horas, in the accusative, like that, deca horas, then it would mean for 10 hours. We did something for 10 hours. Okay? So, that should enable you to translate hemeras tres. And the second thing I need to warn you about is this word ace. Ace usually means into or to. In this context, it's probably better translated as at. Okay? At. It can also mean at. With that said, please pause the video and translate these extracts into English. Okay, let's now go through the answers. Number 1 is entaut emeinen hemeras tres. This means he stayed there for 3 days. Or he remained there for 3 days. Or he remained here for 3 days. Okay? You could have either said here or there. Given that Xenophon is telling a story about something that happened in the past, in English we would typically say there in those circumstances. So he stayed there for 3 days. That accusative time phrase there meaning for that amount of time. And our aorist verb was emeinen, meaning he, she, it stayed, he, she, it remained. It's the weak aorist of menor. Let's go on to 2. Hoi opistopulakes edramon eistus polemius. This means the rear guard ran at the enemies, or I've put enemy as an alternative. The reason for that is because in a military context, the Greeks, and also the Romans did this too, will say enemies. You know, they attacked the enemies. In Greek, hoi polemioi. Now, in English, in a military context, we tend to say the enemy. You know, we charged against the enemy rather than the enemies, even though there are multiple of them, you know, multiple men making up the enemy forces. We say the enemy often in English. So if you have hoi polemioi in the plural in a military context, then you can translate it as a singular. And that applies to the Latin equivalent, which is hostes as well. Fun fact about Latin there. I do Latin as well, if you did not know. Maybe one day I'll make Latin videos too, we'll see. Anyway, our aorist verb was edramon, which is the strong aorist of trechor in the they form. Thirdly, we have ton siton diepteiron. This means they destroyed the grain. This comes from Thucydides, another Greek historian, legendary Greek historian, I should say. And it's about some grain being destroyed. In particular, they destroyed the grain because we've got the verb diopteiro in the weak aorist ending in un, which is the they ending. So they destroyed ton siton, the grain. Now, sitos can mean food, it can mean grain, it can mean bread. In this context, it's meaning grain, so that's why I gave you the meaning grain. Let's now go on to some longer extracts of actual Greek. These both come from Xenophon's Anabasis, and I have glossed all of the unfamiliar vocab, as you can see, which there is quite a lot of. But I'm sure you'll be fine. There's just one thing that I need to warn you about. Okay? And that is this phrase, en de tautais. It doesn't have a noun following tautais. Okay? So it literally says, and in these. And the word these here is feminine, dative, plural. It's in the dative because it follows in. The preposition en governs the dative. But what does it mean, and in these? Now, the word we understand after this is, I suspect, hemerais. This is a phrase that's used to mean, basically, at that time, is what we would say in English. En tautais literally means in these, but in a work of history, it's used to mean at that time. Now, what I suspect it literally means is in these days. We understand days after it because hemera is 1b, it's feminine, it's in the subgroup 1b as I mentioned, and all of those are feminine. And so I think we're understanding hemerais after tautais. That's my suspicion. I don't know if I've questioned until now what we're supplying, what we're understanding after it. It can't be times, because time is chronos. It can't be in those times, or in these times, rather. I think it's literally, and in these. We understand days, and in these days. In English, we would tend to say at that time, essentially. So it's up to you whether you want to be more literal and say, and in these days, or and at that time. With that said, you should be able to translate everything else in these sentences. So please do pause the video and translate these extracts into English. Okay, let's now go through how we would translate these. The first one says, en de tautais proton mentois theois etusan, kai pompas epoiesan kata ethnos hekastoi ton helenon kai agonas gymnikus. Now, we would translate this as, at that time, or in those days, and we could put and at the start as well. So, and at that time, and in those days, they firstly, sacrificed to the gods, and each of the Greeks, according to, we could just say nation or tribe, or their nation, we could understand the word there with it, put on processions and gymnastic contests. Literally made processions and gymnastic contests. Okay? So there's a lot of room for variety here in terms of how you translated this, but if you got this or something similar with the optional equivalent expressions that you could have used, that's fine, okay? Now, I'll just mention a few things. Etusan is one of the aorist verbs here. It's from tuor, the verb to sacrifice. Here it's they sacrificed. And the gods are in the dative. They sacrificed to the gods, okay? We might say they made sacrifices to the gods. That might sound nicer in English, perhaps. The other aorist verb is epoiesan, from poier or, the verb to make or do. Here it's weak aorist, like etusan, in the they form. So they made, and what they made is pompas. A pomper is a procession. So they made processions, literally according to tribe, and we're told that the ones that did this in the nominative plural are each of the Greeks, okay? You've got of the Greeks, that's the genitive torn, eleanon. So each of the Greeks, according to tribe, made processions and contests or competitions, but they're not just any old competitions, they're competitions gymnikus. Now, gymnikos means gymnastic, or pertaining to the gymnasium. So, like sports competitions, really. Gymnastic competitions. Okay, and fifthly, we have entauta kai ton enkephalon tu poinikos proton ephagon hoist ratiotai. Kai hoi polloi et taumasan tote eidos kai ten idiotelta tes hedoneas. And we will translate this by saying something like, and there the soldiers first ate the pit of the date, and many were amazed by both the appearance and the uniqueness of the taste. Okay? So, the reason it means this is as follows. We have kai, which I'm taking as and here, although it can also mean actually and even. And tauta is here or there. So, and there. Now, our aorist verb is epagon. They ate. The strong aorist from estior in the they form. And it's in the they form here rather than the I form because we have a nominative plural, the soldiers. So the soldiers ate, and what they ate is in the accusative, ton enkephalon. Now this is funny. Enkephalos means brain, okay? A kephaler is a head. Head is 1A, okay? Kephaler is a 1A noun. Now, the eng bit, epsilon gamma, is actually n, epsilon nu. So, literally, an enkephalos is the thing in your head. The in the head thing, you know? Namely, the brain. And usually enkephalos means brain. But in this context, it's being used about to poinikos. Now, poinix means date. There's a fruit called the date. Are you familiar with dates? I am not a fruit person. I do not like fruit, okay? It's quite ironic because fruit comes from the Latin word for enjoy. It comes from the verb to enjoy in Latin. Fruit is not enjoyable for me. No fruit other than apples and grapes. And that's at a push, okay? So, I'm not an expert on fruit, but poinix is a date, okay? The date fruit. So, we have the word brain here being used about the date fruit, and what that's being used to refer to is the core of the date fruit, which is called the pit. That's the technical term for the core of a date fruit, okay? So, we're being told about these soldiers that they first ate the pit of the date in this particular place, there, Entauta, and hoi polloi, many, taumasan, were amazed, taumasdor, weak aorist, they form, and the thing you're amazed at goes in the accusative, and we have te kai, both this and this thing. They were amazed by both of those things, or amazed at both of those things. So they were amazed at both the form, eidos, that's form, appearance, etc., and the uniqueness, idiotes, means uniqueness, peculiarity. It's linked to the word idiosyncratic in English, and also the adjective idios, meaning private. The idio prefix in English is related to this noun and other words with idio in Greek. It is linked to the word idiot in English as well, but that's a different meaning. Idiotes is uniqueness or peculiarity. This noun means that. And idiosyncratic means unique to the individual. So that's where we get idiosyncratic from. Anyway, they were amazed at both the form or appearance and the uniqueness, tes hedones. Now, hedone usually means pleasure, hence the word hedonism in English. It is linked to the adjective hedus, meaning sweet or pleasant. In this context, it's probably better translated as taste. So rather than they were amazed at the form and the appearance of the pleasure, so rather than saying they were amazed at the appearance and the uniqueness of the pleasure, we'll probably say they were amazed at the appearance and the uniqueness of the taste. Meaning that how this pit tasted, the pit of the date which they first ate, sound like a rapper, the pit of the date which they first ate on this occasion, They were amazed by how it looked and also by how unique the taste was. Are you meant to eat the pit of a date fruit? I don't know. I'm not into fruit, so I wouldn't know. Anyway, let's now summarise our learning for today's lesson. We've done practice with the aorist. That's the main thing that we've done. But we have also picked up some new vocab along the way. We've learned all of these new nouns, okay? So I would like you to learn these new nouns listed here. We've also learned some new adverbs, which will be very useful. You see those words time and again in Greek. And we've learned a new adjective as well. So we've learned quite a few new words from the passages we've done practice with today. I did also mention about accusative time phrases, how you can use a time phrase in the accusative to mean for that amount of time. When you want to say that you did something for 5 hours, then you put 5 hours in the accusative. But I will make a separate video on accusative time phrases in the future. So you don't need to memorize that just yet. Okay, but you do need to learn this vocab. So do learn this vocab. Now, quickly, some derivatives that we have in English. Hedonere is linked to the word hedonism, which is the doctrine that pleasure is the good. And also the word hedonist, therefore, and hedonic. I've explained enkepolos literally means the thing in the head. And that's why it means brain, or pit when it's about date fruits. Cetos. I'm not sure if we get any words from cetos. If you can think of any derivatives from any of these words that I'm not mentioning, please do share them in the comments below, okay? I've mentioned that idiotes is linked to idiosyncratic, which means peculiar to the individual. Now, poinix, you'll see I've given more meanings than I gave in the story. In the story, it means the date fruit, but this can also mean the palm tree, or purple, as in the colour, or phoenix, as in the mythical creature, okay? So poinix can mean so many things, and it literally would be transliterated using the older Latinized system of transliteration as phoenix. If you converted this into the Latin alphabet using the older system, you would get phoenix, okay? So this word poinix means purple, palm tree, date fruit, or phoenix. Ethnos means tribe, nation, or people. That gives us the word ethnicity. Eidos, meaning form, appearance, or shape, is linked to the word eidolon, which means image or apparition. An eidolon is something that appears. Eidos is therefore also linked to the word idol. An idol is a depiction of something, and it's connected with the word eidos. Another noun that I should have included in this box but did not was opistopulux, which means one who guards the rear, or if plural, the rear guard. Now, this word is a compound of pulux, meaning guard. The prefix that's been added to the start of it comes from the word opisten, which we haven't met yet, but opisten means behind. Okay, so an opistopulux is a guard behind, or a guard at the back, or in the rear. In other words, one who guards the rear, or a rear guard. And gymnikos is linked to the word gymnastic. Gymnasion in Greek means gymnasium, and it comes from the word gymnos. Gymnos is an adjective, it means naked. So the gymnasion is literally the naked place. It's the place where people are naked, and that's because in ancient Greece, they used to do the exercise naked, as you may know, okay? How would you feel about that if there was a rule set down that from now on, when you entered the gym, you had to be nude? Would you be happy? Would you be sad? Let me know in the comments how you'll feel about that. With that said, thank you very much for watching the video today. I've put an ancient Greek frog on the screen to brighten your day, and you can see that something has happened between these two images. Here he's looking at a cricket. Okay, the word for cricket in Greek is akris. He's looking at a cricket. He's looking at an akrida. And then in this picture, the cricket has gone. That's because Hobatrachos ten akrida epagen. The frog ate the cricket. Nom nom nom. He's gobbled it up and he looks like a happy boy now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope that you found it useful and enjoyable. If you have, please do give it a like and let me know in the comments if you have any questions, feedback, or positive words to encourage the work I do on the channel here. With that said, thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, and I shall see you next time.